All right, so we're going to start this one off with a moment of silence. Our source material calls it a moment of silence for the death of an independent Department of Justice.
Wow. Great.
Pretty heavy stuff, right?
It is.
And it kind of sets the tone for what we're diving into today.
Definitely.
We're talking about Pam Bondi's appointment as Attorney General.
Right.
And I'm sure a lot of you listening out there are like, wait, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
What could that mean for the future?
Huge implications.
So to help us unpack all of this, the source material we're using is a video from the Glenn Kirshner YouTube channel. He's a former federal prosecutor.
Right.
And he goes into a lot of detail in this video about what this appointment could mean. So basically, our mission here today is to break down that video transcript for you.
Exactly.
Look at what Bondi has said she wants to do.
Right.
And then kind of like analyze the concerns that are being raised
Right.
about whether or not the DOJ is going to become politicized.
Absolutely.
You know, and I think it's interesting how quickly Attorney General Bondi started taking action.
You know, right away. Yeah.
Like right after being sworn in, she issued a bunch of memos.
Several. Yeah.
And one that really stands out is the one announcing this weaponization working group.
Yeah, and it's fascinating. So the whole stated purpose of this group is to investigate federal and local prosecutions of Trump that are considered to be overly politicized, which, you know, actually kind of echoes what USA Today was saying in their headline, AG Pam Bondi sworn in vows to end weaponization of Justice Department.
Right, but, you know, the video kind of makes the point that there's this bigger concern about what this really means for the DOJ.
Yeah.
Like, is it really about ending weaponization or is it about something else?
Exactly. And the concern that's being articulated is that the DOJ's focus is going to shift away from, you know, what we traditionally think of as public safety, upholding the law, and more towards protecting Trump and maybe even going after people who are seen as his enemies. There's this really strong quote in the video that says, "Rather, she'll be focusing on making America unsafe, if not a living hell, for anybody who dared cross Donald Trump."
Wow. Yeah, pretty intense.
Yeah, and I think that quote kind of highlights the fear that a lot of people have.
Definitely.
Like, is this going to turn into a witch hunt for anyone who's ever opposed Trump?
And to understand why this is such a big deal, we have to remember how important it is for the DOJ to be independent.
Right.
You know, historically, it's been separate from the White House to prevent exactly this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Politically motivated prosecutions. And now, with Bondi's actions, there's worry that that separation is being eroded.
Right. And, you know, Trump has always said that he believes the DOJ was biased against him.
Yeah, he's been very vocal about that.
And against conservatives in general. So you can kind of see how the creation of this working group might be seen as, you know,
like a corrective measure.
Yeah.
Righting a wrong.
Exactly. And then the question becomes, well, what exactly are they going to be investigating? Right? What's the scope here?
So the video goes into that, and it sounds like it's going to be pretty broad.
It's a lot. Yeah.
They're talking about looking into Trump's actions, not just during his presidency.
Maybe before and after.
Yeah, like everything.
Everything.
And then they're also going to be looking into cases brought by Alvin Bragg in Manhattan.
Yep.
Letitia James in New York. And, of course, the DOJ's own investigations into January 6th.
All of it. A very wide net.
Yeah. And even the way Bondi was sworn in kind of adds to this whole sense that something big is changing.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It was at the White House.
Yeah, White House ceremony.
And Justice Clarence Thomas was the one who swore her in.
So, you know, that right there is a lot to unpack.
Right.
I mean, just the location itself. The White House, not the Justice Department.
Right.
And then Justice Thomas, you know, with his history and affiliations,
yeah,
it all raises questions about how independent Bondi will really be.
Yeah, right. And the video even describes Bondi like sprinting over to the White House to be sworn in by Justice Thomas.
A very visual way to put it.
It is.
And it kind of makes you think about, you know, the optics of it all.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's dive into this memo that Bondi issued.
Okay.
The one titled, "Restoring the Integrity and Credibility of the Department of Justice."
Oh, yeah, that one.
And, I mean, right off the bat, the title itself implies that the DOJ's integrity and credibility have been damaged somehow.
Right, like it needs to be restored.
Exactly. And the video points out a really striking line from that memo.
Okay.
It says that the DOJ needs to ensure that the department's personnel are ready and willing to faithfully implement the policy agenda of the duly elected president of the United States.
Okay, so what does that even mean?
Well, you know, traditionally the DOJ is supposed to uphold the Constitution.
Regular law.
Yeah, not necessarily the specific policies of whoever's in the White House at the moment.
That's a good point.
It's a subtle but crucial distinction.
Yeah. And the video also points out that the memo doesn't explicitly mention supporting or defending the Constitution.
Right. It's like it's just assumed.
Which seemed like a pretty big omission.
Especially given everything else that's going on.
Yeah. And then there's this part in the memo where Bondi references Trump's claim that the previous administration was engaged in this unprecedented third world weaponization of prosecutorial power.
Right. So they're framing this as a necessary correction.
Like they're the good guys.
Exactly. But that raises the concern that this is just going to be more of the same, just with a different target.
Right. So instead of the DOJ being used to go after Trump and his allies, now it'll be used to go after his opponents.
Yeah, that's the worry.
And Bondi says in the memo that no one who has acted with a righteous spirit and just intentions has any cause for concern.
On the surface, that sounds reassuring, right?
Yeah, like, don't worry if you haven't done anything wrong.
But then the video brings up reports that FBI agents and federal prosecutors who worked on the January 6th investigations
are facing retaliation or even being fired.
Seriously?
Yeah, and they give some specific numbers, something like 25 to 30 federal prosecutors.
Wow. So if that's true...
It definitely contradicts that whole righteous spirit idea.
Yeah, like maybe there is reason to be concerned.
Exactly. Even if you were just doing your job.
So let's get into the nitty-gritty of this weaponization working group.
Okay, what do we know about how it's going to work?
Well, the video says it's going to be led by the Office of the Attorney General.
Okay.
And it's going to involve a bunch of different parts of the DOJ.
Oh, wow. Like a whole team effort.
Yeah, so there's the Deputy Attorney General's office.
Okay.
The Office of Legal Policy.
Mm-hmm.
The Civil Rights Division.
Yeah.
And the U.S. Attorney's Office for D.C.
So a lot of manpower behind this.
Yeah, and the video is pretty clear about who they think this group is going to target.
Who are they worried about?
Well, they mentioned Special Counsel Jack Smith and his staff.
Right.
District Attorney Alvin Bragg and his staff. Attorney General Letitia James and her staff.
And basically anyone who was involved in prosecuting the January 6th cases.
So this isn't just about Trump himself.
Right. It's about anyone who might have posed a threat to him.
Exactly.
And it's like the video is saying that this is the end of the DOJ as we know it.
Yeah, they even give it a date of death, February 5th, 2025.
Wow. So to recap, we've got Pam Bondi as the new Attorney General.
Right.
She's moving fast with these memos and this weaponization working group.
Mm-hmm.
And there are serious concerns about whether this means the DOJ is becoming politicized.
A lot to think about.
Yeah. So for those of you listening, what do you think is the most concerning aspect of all of this?
You know, thinking about that metaphor the video uses about the ashes of the DOJ, what if this really is the end?
Yeah.
What kind of justice system are we going to have then?
Right, like what happens next?
And will anyone be held accountable in this new system?
It's a lot to consider and definitely a story we'll be keeping an eye on.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me.